Welcome to another video of military science, and today we're analyzing the very vital and important concept of firepower in military science and how exactly do we mean by firepower in military science. So, first of all, there is no one definition that defines firepower. You can read as many historians or military analysts as you like, but you won't find one single definition. What you will find, though, is that in many cases, firepower can be seen as something very and vastly different. Here we're going to divide into four different things. Firstly, we're going to start with the strategic level, the ability of a state and what we imply by firepower within a state. In this case, it will mean the ability of a massive state like Russia to obliterate in firepower capabilities only another country. That will be mainly through the lens of nuclear weapons and so forth. But we're not going to get into that into much detail. I do not put much value in firepower when it comes to a state level, but to the smaller units, that's where the actual value holds true. Now, in regards to army level and command level, where firepower starts to have some value, now we're referring to long-range missiles, anti-naval missiles, strategic bombers, the ability of one state to carry a lot of explosive and power over the enemy. That is one definition of firepower at the army command level, and each branch of an army can define it. So the Navy's firepower will be its big guns, its air force, its missiles. Its air force will be mainly the strategic capabilities, so the long-range bombers, while for the army it will be from the small arms to the long-range missiles. Now again, we're not even going to go that into firepower at that level. What we really care about is firepower at the front level and specifically at the unit level. And here is why firepower matters. What firepower truly is a multiplier. What do we mean by this? An army group has a set of supplies, okay? So you have a set amount of supplies. And these supplies of ammunition, of big artillery pieces. You have a set amount of quality of equipment. And you have a set amount of precision that this equipment have. And then you have some other factors, for example, mobility, terrain, yada, 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 yada. All of those things act as multipliers to firepower. So, in this case, we have here, which is the Operation Bagration, a front level would be something on those lines, like the 4th Ukrainian Front. It doesn't matter what's the best tank that the Soviet Union has. When it comes to firepower, what it truly matters for that army group is how many tanks at this many moment do I have, how much air power can I call at this very moment, right now, and how can I continue to be able to supply my units actually doing the fighting with firepower. That implies that as units move to harder terrain, even if supplies exist at the army level, the general firepower will gradually decrease because of the terrain. Now, why do we care about firepower that much? Before going at the unit level and see, we care about firepower in warfare because firepower is the main measure to use is the main killing ability of an army. So one measure is killing ability. The other is ability to destroy technology, let's say, so tanks, aircraft, and so forth. And the other one is the ability to, and that's the most important one, to destroy entrenchments. So entrenchments we mean by defensive positions. The ability to penetrate and on already existing defensive line mainly relies on how strong your firepower is. The stronger your firepower is, the more it's able to break that entrenchment line. It has as a bonus effect though, and that is what Tom Holland argues, a brilliant historian, on morale. So even if I have a weapon that's way more silent, like compared to a big gun that does a big boom boom, in many cases is much better than actually a more precise and more silent gun because of the fear that it entails to the defendant. Being under a heavy artillery barrages is massively demoralizing to a force. Now, seeing specifically at the arming group level, imagine here we have a scenario where we have different divisions. So all of these will be different divisions and the dotted lines will be a city, the green will be a forest, the yellow lines will be the roads, and each individual unit is conducting its own offensive operations. Now, its firepower, it's its own at this right moment. So, how much artillery power does this unit have? What type of firepower do they possess? And the supplies, all of the measures we mentioned prior, is the level of firepower. Anything extra, such as air power, can only be considered as monetarily as firepower. Now let's examine a scenario where this division enters into a city. What this will entail in practical terms in firepower. So imagine you have two divisions here, so Division 1 and Division 2 of the two enemies. And they're spread out throughout the city and they're fighting and so forth. This unit here, so imagine these guys are like 200 people, okay? The amount of firepower they have is not now, it's literally how many assault rifles they have, how many even anti-tank rifles, anti-aircraft cannons, anything that can destroy anything. That can be considered as firepower. Now, the quality of such firepower will vary massively, but that by itself can be considered firepower. So, if the artillery pieces here do not provide fire support directly to these units fighting, because they are doing something else, it means it doesn't matter how much firepower the division has. What truly matters is how much firepower this unit has. And in war, this is something really, really vital to understand, mainly because there will be a lot of situations where a unit will come to a point that it pushes forward. It managed to break the line because of heavy artillery, whatever. They break the line, they are pushing in, and they come to a point where they are outside of the range of their artillery pieces. A lot of artillery pieces cannot be moved, and as a result, all of the individual soldiers there, despite being part of a huge collective, which in this case will be a division, these units right here, their level of firepower is massively reduced. And to conclude the whole concept of firepower, we can argue it in much simple terms, which will be how much constant firepower a unit has. So that means how many rounds of explosives and general small arms fire and so forth can I maintain per hour. Then I have the maximum initial firepower. Now that's vastly different. So maximum initial firepower plays a much more important role when it comes to breaking the enemy line rather than causing a lot of damage. So, for example, imagine having 24 different artillery pieces, so normal artillery. Each artillery piece can fire 6 rounds per minute, okay? And then you have 6 Katyusha rocket missile systems. So we're preferring to World War II standards. That's where I'm most specialized. So a Katyusha rocket, let's say, can hold 20 missiles. The maximum initial firepower of these Katyusha rockets is massively higher than those artillery pieces. As a result, the initial destructive capability of these Katyusha rockets will be much, much stronger. But when it comes to constant firepower, then the normal artillery unit is much better. And of course, considering these two scenarios, we come and add more variables in, for example, how mobile an artillery piece can be. That can be, so how it's able to pierce an enemy. So an anti-tank, while has a low explosive capability, so it doesn't add so much in firepower, because of its ability to penetrate a target, can be considered much more valuable. While on the other hand, 1,000 rifles, which can provide in theory a lot of firepower, are not the same numerically as one very big artillery piece. But when it comes to arguing the firepower and the ability of a unit to fight, then we combine all of this together, and yes, we generalize by doing this, to create this idea and concept of firepower. And we're going to use this concept of firepower in our example videos in many situations to explain, for example, how to break defensive lines, why firepower should be used, and where can extra firepower to be used, where to use your air force, and to enhance firepower in specific points. So, thank you for watching this video. Any questions you might have, please do ask them below. I'm more than willing to clarify if you have anything. Like, subscribe, judge me, and even a debate I would much like to have with anyone that's willing to do so. Thank you, and have a good night.